Hi folks, this is Santosh Shiva, your host at RunYogi Diaries. Welcome back. Every week, I bring you conversations with people who are on a journey of well-being through endurance sports. I hope they trigger a new possibility in you, provide you some tips, and perhaps some inspiration to perspire. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing to it so you get the latest updates. Hit like if you like this video and leave your comments. Let us know if you took something away from this conversation. My guest today is a fellow YouTuber. He loves running so much that he actually switched his career from IT to becoming an osteopathic therapist. He is also someone who's passionate about multi-day racing. So we get to talk about his journey in running and his work, his experiences at the multi-day race at the Gobi Desert in Mongolia and the Atacama Desert, Chile. The prep, the training, and the mindset for something as huge like that. I was persuaded at the end of the conversation to make this a part of my bucket list. I think you will too. Let's welcome Stephane Laporte. Hey Stephane, welcome to RunYogi Diaries.
Morning, Santosh. Thanks for having me.
Morning to you. It's evening in Houston. It's like 7:30. We have
That's true.
exactly 12 hours difference between Saigon and Houston, which is nice because it's so easy to calculate, right? Yeah, it's 7:30 here or 7:30 morning.
Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, advantages of distance.
Yes. So hey, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Right, you've had a fascinating running track record. You've been running for a long time, and you've also taken it into your profession. So it's a very interesting story, which I'm sure our viewers will be interested to learn about. So let me hand it back to you to do a quick introduction, and then we'll jump in.
Sure, thanks. So my name's Stefan, and I've been living in Vietnam for about 11 years, and I'm an osteopathic therapist and a sports scientist with a strong passion for running and sports in general. So um, my life today is trying to help people with all sorts of ailments, musculoskeletal injuries, headaches, back pain, neck pain, a lot of office related things. But again, because I enjoy running so much, I do want to give back to the running community mostly. I hope my boss doesn't hear that. Because most of the people at the hospital who come, they uh, they have other things than running in their life. So
Absolutely.
for me, it's very niche, but that's what I enjoy doing, and this is what I want to do. Not that I don't want to treat other people. I love it. I enjoy every day that I spend doing therapy at the hospital. But runners, that's what I do.
Yes. Awesome. And that's why I found your story so fascinating. You know, you have a YouTube channel and you're putting those awesome videos which help runners across the globe. And you know, you're doing this for everyone who's running. Very nice, short videos. So we'll talk about that a little later. But before that, I know you have a fascinating story about how you got into being an osteopath as well. Let's start with that. You know, your passion for running took you into a different direction in profession as well. So let's hear about that.
Right. So I've been running for about 25 years now, so quite a bit, and pretty accidentally. I was always into sports. I played basketball as a teenager and other sports with friends. And when I moved to Hong Kong in 1999, I was just at the gym and there was a treadmill available. I had no idea what it was, how to use it, and I tried it for about 20 minutes. I had a blast. I was exhausted at the end, and to my surprise, there was no soreness the next day. It felt good. I was like, running. That sport is interesting. So I tried it again, and I got hooked, and and then and then I guess injured. Not immediately, of course, but a few years later, I got injured, and I started spending a lot of time at the physiotherapists because I was running a lot. I got to the point that I was doing trail runs through a whole season. It was maybe 6 months of racing, perhaps every week or every couple of weeks. So like signing up to races and doing races week after week, which is quite extreme. I had a full-time job at the same time. I was working in IT, and so working into fixing computers, spending my time at the physiotherapists to get myself better. At one stage, an idea popped into my mind. I always wanted to give something back to the community. All my friends were in sustainable energies, working on clean engines, clean energy, and things like that. And I was like, well, I feel like I also need to do something that's more significant than fixing computers. And that's how I thought maybe I can become, like what my new friends are doing. My new friends were physiotherapists. When you spend 3 times a week for 6 months at the physios, they're basically your friends, right? And that's when the idea spawned. And it took several years for me to take an actual step just to get out of my comfort zone, to start getting back to school, studying, picking up a job that went into therapy, and then graduating, changing country, finding a job again, and then starting a completely new life. That's completely different. I used to fix computers, now I fix humans. It sounds similar, but it really isn't. It's a lot more, actually, it's a lot more gratifying, I think, to help humans.
Amazing.
If you can. So that's, in essence, yeah, my journey into therapy.
That's an amazing story, Stefan. Such an amazing story. I have another podcast that I host. It's called RunYogi Diaries. It's about people on amazing journeys of work. And in fact, this story fits very well there as well. So I was like, wow, this is one person who is, pursuing something that he's passionate about and making a difference. So that's beautiful. And
It's yeah.
so I take, Mhm. Go ahead.
It's tough. No, it's really tough actually. At about in your 30s, in your early 30s, when you decide to when my life was good. My life was really good.
Yeah.
I could run as much as I wanted. I was living in Hong Kong, tons of mountains, tons of sea. Uh, the pay was really good. The job was gratifying. I didn't hate my job at all. I was working an 8 to 5, but I really enjoyed it, and I was exercising as much as I wanted. But to just do that, such a 180 degrees turn, that's what's difficult, to
Yep.
actually take the step to change is always scary. And then for 5 6 years, studying is really tough. Every day wondering, why did I give up my job? Because you don't get paid when you study. So
Yep.
um, and then once you start in your new career, maybe it's gratifying, but also you feel old. I feel old every day. I feel so old. Um, but I guess overall, definitely worth it. If you can do it, if you can really pursue your passion, it's not always going to be easy. Actually, I think it's always going to be very difficult. But hopefully, in the end, 100% worth it.
Absolutely. I have a basic technical question, and many of folks who are listening to this may have this question as well. So, in the US, we have a chiropractor, we have physical therapists, and of course, we have orthopedic, surgeons or orthopedicians. And these are the typical folks we go to when we need to get fixed. Now, when you say osteopath, and then you also have physical therapy, do you have the same system in Vietnam, or is it different?
So it's different in every country. And in Europe, osteopaths are different from in the US, where in the US, a DO is a medical doctor, fully licensed as an MD. And from what I understand, in Europe, osteopaths are not medical doctors, so I cannot perform surgery or prescribe medication, for example. But we focus on all the therapeutic aspect of osteopathy. And it differs from chiropractic in the sense that we do manipulations when necessary, but our approach is a lot more gentle and laid back to that of chiropractic. Um, we also have what's called visceral and cranial osteopathy, where we focus a lot more on the internal organs and the way the head functions, say for headaches or other dysfunctions or digestive dysfunctions, in particular in babies. And as for physical therapy, where it differs is our treatments are mostly passive for the patient, which means the passive seldom needs to do anything. The patient just needs to lie down, which is really useful in acute lower back pain. You know, those moments where you have a back pain and you can't move. You can barely move your legs. That's how much painful it is for you. So a physical therapist might want to prescribe you some exercises, but you can't do those exercises because it hurts. This is where we're quite useful because we do the mobilizations for the patient. Now, all of these jobs have things in common. All of them have the same goal of getting the patient better through movement, a little bit of exercising, a little bit of massage, a little bit of all these things. It's just the approach might be a little bit different. What osteopaths like to say is that we see the human body as one single unit, as a whole. It's not because you have back pain that we need to focus on your back. As a matter of fact, very often your back pain does not come from your back. So we treat the other things, and that's how we approach the human body. It might be an ankle sprain that turns into back pain. So we would treat the symptoms, and we'd also treat the ankle sprain, for example.
Mhm. Makes sense. That's so clear. That thanks for clarification on that. And you also started a YouTube channel, right, a year ago, I think, on called SafeMotions. It's a very cool channel. Folks who are listening to this to check it out. Short videos on exercises that you can do for prevention, strengthening. So, talk to us a little bit about like what's behind SafeMotion. What got you inspired to do that?
Well, I I see a lot of people who have gotten hurt. That's my job. And I found that there's a lot of similarity in their process of injury. Basically, we all do the same mistakes. And a lot of us, when we do these mistakes, we don't know we're doing those mistakes. And so, what I wanted to do is educate people about how they get injured most of the times and how to avoid it, because I find myself day in, day out saying the same things to my patients. You're doing that mistake again. But I can't tell them that because it's not again for them. It's the first time it happens to them sometimes. So they don't know. And I feel like, especially in the running community, which I'm part of a group, we run together. If I can at least help them understand why they get injured, at least they can make an educated decision. Should I do that thing that's really stupid to do, although I know it's going to hurt? As opposed to what they used to think, I'm going to do that and I'm not even thinking I'm going to get hurt. I'm just going to do it. They don't realize this is going to hurt them further down the road. Maybe not right now, but in 10 years. And 10 years may seem like a long time, but when you're in your 30s, 10 years later, you're still in your 40s. I do hope that you still want to be running like if you were 20 when you're 40. Um,
Absolutely.
so I want to point out that an injury process can start 10 years, 20 years earlier. And it's a process that can develop and worsen over decades. We all want to hopefully run when we're in our 60s, maybe even in our 70s. I don't know, as long as possible,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So that was the idea. I wanted to help more people. All the sessions that we do at the hospital is we have 40 minutes with a patient. We see them as much as they need to see us, and then that's about it. If I'm able to make the information available to the runners, then they can go and review and learn as much as they need to. They don't need me for that. And I think I think in a sense that's much more helpful. And then there was COVID, so we were all in semi lockdown, and so I had a lot of time and a lot of boredom. And one of my friends had a good camera, and he enjoyed filming, so we started together that channel. Within an hour, we had the name, we had the domain, we registered, and then we shot our first video within, I don't know, 2 days. And it was a lot of fun to make. I didn't know how YouTube worked, so he taught me, he showed me, and today this is almost a year later, where I'm trying to do everything by myself, and it's become sort of a passion now.
Yeah, beautiful. Sounds like me in terms of how we started the channel around the same time. And
Mm.
and I love your videos. A lot of the visuals that you share show parts of Vietnam. So someone like me who's never traveled to Vietnam, it's a nice introduction. So you're doing a lot of service to the Vietnam tourism organization as well. I think inviting people to come and check it out.
Yeah,
So thanks for that.
whenever the
Thanks for
world
that.
reopens, you're
Yeah,
welcome.
absolutely. So, moving on to your running journey itself, you seem to a, love trails, you love ultras, and you seem to have taken a liking for multi-day, trail format, ultra formats, right? And so let's talk a little bit about those two big races that you've done. One is, of course, the Gobi Desert. It's called the Gobi
Gobi
March,
Run, yeah. Gobi
and the
March,
other
yeah.
one is Atacama. So let's get into that. So first thing I want to hear from you, and I think the viewers will want to hear as well as Gobi Desert. It's in the middle of Mongolia. It's a desert. How do you prepare for something like that? It's a 250 kilometers race over 7 days. How do you prepare yourself mentally, physically, and why did you choose to do something as challenging as that?
Um, you have to be a little bit unconscious, um, the first time around. There's this excuse: the first one you do, you have no idea what to expect, and the second time, you're suicidal. I'm joking, but I want to quote this. He's an amazing runner. He's meant to be um, the fittest person on the planet. Apparently, he's got 4% body fat. Anyway, his name's Dean Karnazes, and he ran 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days. And overnight, at the end, he was missing his family, so he ran across the US back home. I think his last marathon was in New York, which he completed in about 3 hours. And then he ran across, I believe he lives in maybe California. I might be wrong, but literally ran across the US after running 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days. So he was at one of our races. I think it's the second one that I did, and I remember vividly his quote where, so the organizers of these races in that kind of format, you run 250 kilometers or 150 miles in 7 days. You get 1 day race, one long day. You have to carry everything with you: your food, your equipment, change of clothes, toothbrush, you name it, toilet paper if you need it. Um, they provide the tent, and they provide medical, of course, medical service if you need it, and water. You have the choice of hot water and cold water. Well, cold, as cold as it gets in a desert. And that's it. And you get a maximum of 10 liters of water, I think, per day, if I remember correctly. That includes your shower or cleaning your clothes and drinking water. And Dean Karnazes was sitting there at the end of the day, and he was looking at his bottle of water, and he said, that's all we get. And I was like, where is the love? And I thought that was great. You've got an amazing champion who's just got a gift. His body is just, science is baffled, and he's there. Where's the love? Um, so these are tough races to prepare for, and tough races to challenge yourself mentally. I think the first race, I started training seriously 3 months before the event, which now I realize is much too late. But hey, I was in my 20s, so invincible, right? Um, and I had a background of running, but not that much. I just ran a little bit. And so what I did for those 3 months is I increased my mileage rather quickly, which you should not do. In terms of mistakes, I've made them all, I think. So during those 3 months, I started running about 80 kilometers a week, which is quite a lot. And luckily, I didn't get injured or I wasn't to the point I was overtrained. In terms of preparation, a lot of it is prepare for everything. That means buy your equipment, prepare for that as well. You need to train with your equipment. Your running shorts, you need to choose it properly, test them if they can last for multi-day runs. Test your food, that's the most important. When you're out there in the desert, after the third or fourth day, if you've only taken your favorite food, you're going to hate it. You're not going to be able to eat it. At one stage, I couldn't even bear the blandness of water. I couldn't drink. I was so dehydrated, and this is dehydration. Dehydration. Again, I didn't know it back then. I was so dehydrated that I couldn't eat or drink. That is dangerous. Um, I managed to drink hot water. That's the only thing that I could actually ingest. So you have to train for everything. You have to for that kind of multi-day event. You have to buy a variety of foods, a variety of flavors, tastes. Some stronger, some less strong. You have to find the most effective ways of getting some calories because you have to carry it as well. If you carry sausages and things like that, actually, there was a group of Italians. They were amazing runners, and they finished, I think, in the top 10 at the end of the runs. But they carried their favorite foods, which is cheese and salami, which we couldn't believe it. We all had our freeze dried food, everything super technical, and they had salami and then cheese. And then in terms of electrolytes, we all have our specific sports drink. They had water, sugar, salt.
Hmm.
Top 10 finishers of overall. But if you're just starting in that kind of race, I don't recommend that because salami carries a lot of water. You'll have to carry that with you in your backpack at the beginning of the run. You don't want to have a heavy backpack to run with because you're stuck with that backpack. Everything, your life is in there. So you have to train with extra weight on your back as well. And the best way to train for it actually is to go humble. Um, in your first race. Your goal is to try and finish it, and that's it. Your experience during that first race will be your best training.
Hmm.
So you have to
And
go.
this is
You have to go do it.
like a desert, right? And you have extreme temperatures, and for most folks who are going into these kind of multi-day adventure races, they don't live in these kind of conditions. So how do you simulate like a desert kind of condition? How do you prepare your body for something like that, something extreme like that?
Yeah, it's quite hard. You have to make sure that you get comfortable with heat. So there's a lot of ways you can do that. I was living in the region Southeast Asia, so it does, or even Hong Kong. There are moments where it gets really hot. So it's easy for me to train in those conditions. But if you're not in that kind of country, you have to put on some jackets, some things that are less breathable, and get used to sweating. In reality, it's that dry that I don't remember sweating that much.
Mhm.
That's the truth. But what you do want to be careful with is the sun. It's going to burn you. There's no doubt you have to protect yourself. Some people would wear long sleeves. For me, that was I can't wear long sleeves. It's way too hot. So a lot of sunscreen, the maximum amount you can. I had a protective hat so my neck doesn't get burnt. I mean, you have to be very careful with that. I had a friend who got sunburnt right there. So the sunglasses would protect part of it. He was white. He had the marks of the sunglasses, but around it on the sides, this is where he thought he was protected, but wasn't. He got sunburnt right there. You have to be really careful with that. You have to respect the desert, respect nature. Nature will always win.
Yeah.
Um, but
And this is like
Definitely.
and this is you're doing what about almost 5 6 days, 250 kilometers, right? So it's almost 40 kilometers, 50 kilometers a day,
Yeah,
right?
it's about a marathon a day, roughly.
Okay. And so you're just running during the day. Do you have to run during the night at all, or?
There is actually, they split it out. The last day is an easy day, which is about 15 kilometers. By then, you're shattered anyway. You can't run 1 kilometer, let alone 15. And right before that, there's a long day in the usual format, or at least what it was back then. And the long day, they make it such that you run overnight, which is amazing. Running in the desert overnight, that's what makes it worth it. It's beautiful. And in any case, these races are so hard. It becomes amazing because you feel like you're on another planet, but also if you're lucky that you find a group of people to run with who run at the same pace, then you're a group of sort of explorers of another planet.
Mhm.
This really feels amazing. And this is why at the end of the race, everybody's like, I'll never do that again, ever.
Mhm.
And then the next year, you find them again in the same race. They register again for the torture. Yeah.
And that leads me to the next your next adventure, which was in Atacama Desert in Chile, right?
Yeah.
Um, so did you just sign up immediately after this, or you took a break and then went there?
Oh, it took me 2 years to recover. I wanted to go because this one was a little bit different. So the Gobi Desert, the first one, it was actually based in China. It's the hottest spot in the planet. Apparently, it's I forgot what it's called. I think it's called the Devil's Cauldron, something like that, where the devil cooks its meal. That's how hot it's supposed to be. And then the Atacama Desert is the desert that's the closest to the sky. So that was really exciting, and when I was there, it was unbelievable. It's nighttime. You look up and you feel you could literally pick up the stars with your bare hands. That's how close they feel. Unbelievable. And this one was a 250 kilometers run across the desert. So you run from one end of the desert to the other. It's a very long desert. So that feels quite cool as well. It's you can say I've run across a whole desert. It's the same distance, but you could still show off a little bit.
Hmm.
And of their races back then, it was also their most difficult, aside from the Antarctic race. The reason I signed up is because humans, we're a bit crazy. I I really enjoyed the challenge. I enjoyed the feeling that every single day, at the end of the day, everybody wants to quit. But the next morning, everybody wakes up. You open your tent and you see people limping up to shower or to clean their feet or prepping up for the next day. All the people who the night before said, "That's it, I'm done," who genuinely thought about quitting, they still stand up and they still get ready for the start. And I thought that was really inspiring, that really don't give up mentality. It just need a couple of hours sleep. And for some reason, as a group, everybody found the motivation to keep on going in that torture. It's really, really tough, especially if it's your first time, if it's your first day, your first night. You're saying there's no way I can carry on like that for another 5 or 6 days. Just no way. Every morning, people still carry on. I remember at the Atacama race, the first day, the winner of the year before sprained his ankle on the very first day and came back to camp, and he had to stop. His injury was too bad; he could not carry on, which is the wise thing to do. You don't want to do an extra 5 days on a sprained ankle. That sprained ankle is going to haunt you for the decades to follow. So, a huge respect for a great athlete who knew when it was time to call it quits, even though it's the first day, the first hours. That's the right thing to do. Register for the next race the next year when your ankle is better. Um,
Yep,
but yeah,
exactly.
completely different experience. The first run I did it in 65 hours, and the second run I trained differently. I couldn't run 80 kilometers a week. I tried to train a little more in a smarter way. I got wiser, and I got a little bit more technical. I was more experienced as a runner, and I finished the Atacama race in 45 hours. So there was a 20 hours difference between the first and the second one, the same
Wow.
distance, on a race that was harder. So that shows, it goes to say that experience for that kind of thing is really everything. Before registering for a race like that, you do want to be familiar with technical trails and trail runs to begin with. If you're a road runner and go to those desert runs, I think it's going to be very difficult.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Although possible, humans have a lot of grit,
Yep.
so
Yep.
why not? Mental strength.
No, makes sense. So you said you did some things different in terms of training. What did you do different from the first one to the second one, and how that seemed to have helped you as well?
Yeah, the first one was sheer volume. I was just running every day. It was beautiful. I was running at lunchtime, and I love taking a break from work, go for a 10K run, come back, take a shower, put on my suit and tie, all sweaty, go back to work, and I'd keep on sweating in front of my computer. When I sweat nonstop for hours. It doesn't stop. A bit embarrassing, but listen, this is what I enjoyed, and I did it because I enjoyed it. 10 kilometers lunchtime every day, and then a long run during the weekends. The second time around, I was like, well, what if I do a better build up? What if I integrate some speed training? I reduced my volume, included some speed training, maybe twice a week, not that much, because it's long distance. There's no point doing too much speed training. But what you want to do is, when you have time during the weekend, spend some time on your feet. Go hiking. Go hiking 2 days in a row, twice a day, 3 times in a row if you can. And that was it. My long weekends were not about running, they were just about spending time in my race shoes, testing my socks, testing the lubricant that you can put on your foot, taping your feet to see which one's the most comfortable, and sleeping with your taping to see how it holds up the next day and the day after. Building up a strategy. That's how I trained the second time. I learned from my previous mistakes, the amount of salt and sweat you get on your clothes, what you should wash. Really, I didn't wash anything during 7 days, but I took 7 pairs of socks. My advice for multi-day events: if there's one thing you want to protect and carry heavy equipment for, it's for your feet. If it's extra insoles in your shoes, if it's extra socks, if it's lubricant for your feet, if it's nail clippers, take care of your feet. You don't need a toothbrush. With your finger, toothpaste, brush your teeth with your finger. If you save 10 grams in your backpack by not taking the toothbrush, save that 10 grams. It's important.
Wow.
So that's what I learned basically for my second race.
Awesome. Well, those are great tips actually for anyone thinking about it. I was reading about it on their website, and they've announced the race for 21 and 22, and I was like, would I do it? And let me talk to Stefan. What does it take? So, thanks. That's amazing.
Yeah, I
And
have ton of advice if you want to try that. And sorry, I interrupted you, but I just remembered. I really recommend a treat when you're halfway or something like that. We took with a group of friends some freeze dried blueberry cheesecake. It's all dehydrated. It's space food basically. Um, and you have to put hot water to make it sort of puff up and become edible. But that blueberry cheesecake was amazing, even though it was freeze dried. That was a treat. It was. We made it that far. Let's have a cake. It's dead weight in our backpack. It does bring a bit of nutrients, but not that much. It's not effective, but still bring something that you want to give as a treat. Maybe not chocolate because that'll melt, but something like that.
yeah, yeah. And how many people typically are in these kind of races? Hundreds or more?
When I did it, it was very small. The company's called Racing the Planet. I really recommend them. There were about 100 participants in the Gobi March, and there was just about that many organizers and volunteers. So it was almost one volunteer per participant. Very well organized, very well managed. Nobody got lost for more than they needed. We all get lost. That's normal. It's part of the trails, but
Okay.
um, we felt. I was about to say we felt really safe. No, that's not true. We didn't feel safe at all. I was caught in a sandstorm, and at the next checkpoint, I just, I just, I just lashed out on the poor organizers. I just let go. I was yelling at the organizers, "You guys are crazy. We're gonna die out there. How can you do that?" Because I'm quite heavy, 75 kilos, but there were some women running it, and they were, I don't know, maybe 40 kilos, and in a sandstorm, they could get pushed out, trip, and then fall down the mountain. It was a very narrow path. um, Sometimes it's dangerous, and what one of the girls did is she waited for a few guys to come, and they ran as a group, so they were more protected. So no, I sorry, I didn't feel safe, not all the time, but the organizers did everything they could, and they were present. Mm. I remember I was losing one of my toenails, and the medical staff there, uh, she had a little needle, and she planted a needle down into my nail, and I didn't know that. But as blood builds up under your toenail, it puts pressure on the toenail. This is when you lose your toenail. So if you drill a little hole into your toenail, the blood has one way to escape, and there's no pressure, and you might save your toenail. Um, it's frightening when you have that medic with a needle trying to plant that needle into your toenail that's hurting and bleeding. It's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. um, but
And
it makes for great
this was in
memories.
Gobi. This was in Gobi, or was this in
This
Atacama?
was the nail thing that was in Atacama. I think in the Gobi March, I lost about 7 toenails, and Atacama, I lost only 3. See, experience does everything. You save some toenails with experience.
And what about shoes? Are you use what are you wearing hiking shoes or any kind of specialized shoes for this, or is it regular running shoes that you use?
Sure, you wear you wear some hybrids. You don't want something that's too heavy because you're still running, and you wear trail running shoes. I was wearing Salomon because I really liked their grip, and they hold on really tight to your feet, which is important when you run in mud. The Gobi March, within the first day, I think 25% of the participants had lost one shoe.
Hmm.
And so the organizers had to drive back to town to buy some shoes for these participants so they could continue to run, just because the shoelaces weren't tied up well. Salomon has this um, special tie lock, and they hold on really well to your shoes. There's a lot more brands of trail running shoes these days with a different type of heel drop. So a lot more choices nowadays. But back then, for me, Salomon trail runs were great. Yeah.
Terrific, terrific. No, that's amazing. And so, are you planning to do any more of this? They have the Namib Desert and Antarctica on their list. Are you planning any of those, or this is it? You're good.
Oh no, I would love to do one more when the time comes. I remember running with a guy who was 66 years old in one of those races, and he looked exactly like my dad. That was really disturbing. I was running in the desert for 7 days with my dad. Anyway, uh, and it gave me a lot of hope, right? He's 66, he can do that. I've got time. I don't want to put pressure on myself. I'll do it when the time is right. I do want to get this experience again. It's life changing, and I want to experience it one more time. But not anytime soon. It's not this year. It's not next year. Obviously, we can't travel that much. As for the Antarctic race, obviously, well, you have to qualify for it. You have to have run, I think, three of their races, two of their races within the past 2 years or something like that. So I'd have to redo all of those before I can qualify for the Antarctic race. And the Antarctic race, I think, is gruesome. It's really mentally challenging because I think you live in a boat, at least back then, and the 250 kilometers, you had to run it in a loop in ice. So you'd be running around with snow up to your waist, basically, as long as you want every day. As long as within the end of the week, you've run 250 kilometers. That's crazy. So you go and sleep for a couple hours in the boat, you wake up, okay, I'm going to do 5 loops. You spend 3 hours doing 5 loops. You go back to sleep, you eat, you go out again. I mean, the mental toughness, that's just another level. That's I can't imagine being in that small group of people in that boat stuck for 7 days.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. That
but
that
then
sounds.
again, maybe one day.
So, what's next for you? What are you planning next?
In terms of running, I'm going to stick to smaller races. I try to do 100K in Vietnam a few years ago. I think I was way undertrained for that. I had just trained for 3 months. I go on and off running, unfortunately. Uh, my base level is about 15 kilometers a week, which is not that much. And I failed. I ran 60 kilometers. I was exhausted and my brain failed me. My brain was thinking, I've got a friend waiting for me with a bottle of wine. I've got my wife who's really bored in town. I should really go and meet them, take care of my wife. I'm a quit. And so I quit. And now it's haunting me. So I have to do this race again. I have to finish it just for the sake of, completing something. I hate not finishing something.
Yeah. All right. Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
yeah, if not this year, it's in August, so I feel like I'm not ready for that yet. Maybe next year. I've learned to take my time. Being a therapist, I see people getting injured. I've learned that I want to save my knees for when I'm 66 and I can run another desert run.
Yeah.
So let's see. Maybe next year, 100K again.
Awesome. That's awesome. We wish that you can get that done, and we do also wish that we get to see you back on those desert adventures. It's just so fascinating. I'm, just learning from you about what it takes. It's a dimension that I never wasn't aware of until you told me about it. And it's awesome, really. Thanks for sharing your story there. So,
Sure.
we're going to move to the next part of our conversation, which is I have a few rapid fire questions for you for fun.
Okay.
And let's get into that.
I'm hanging on
And
to my chair right now.
yeah, they're all running related. So, it's going to be fun.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know you're a traveler. You've traveled across, you've lived in many parts of the world. Um, so what's the best city for you when it comes to running? What would you rate
Hands
as the
down,
best?
hands down Hong Kong.
Okay.
I've lived in I think a dozen cities around the world. Paris is beautiful. I mean, Rio, you're running along the beach, you're on cliffs. It's amazing. But Hong Kong has everything to offer. There's a little bit of mountain, there's a little bit of sea, there's a little bit of city. All of this within such a short travel distance. Within a 15 minutes cab ride, you're on the beach. From the beach, 15 minutes cab ride, you're up a hill. You've got trails, you've got roads. It it's just a hyper condensed version of absolutely everything that you need, I think. So
Wow.
I like the variety. I can't just run road or just run trails. I need a bit of everything. And then going to the beach in the same city, it's just unbelievable. So hands down, Hong Kong.
Perfect. Perfect. No, that's a great testimonial for Hong Kong. I'm
Yeah, they
pursuing
should pay me for
it.
that.
Yes. Hong Kong and the Vietnam Tourism Board
Yeah,
or whatever.
absolutely.
You're doing
I'm
got
wearing a
good
t-shirt from
work.
Vietnam, right? Yeah, it
Oh
says
yeah,
Vietnam right here. There
Vietnam
you
Mountain Marathon. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. What's your favorite post long run guilty pleasure, food wise?
Wine. What
Yeah, drink
else?
is fine too.
I'm French. I can't remove that from me. So don't drink right after a run. It's inflammatory. It'll lengthen your recovery time, but a couple of days later, or maybe the next day, yeah, wine is amazing. Good wine, sharing that with friends, it just tastes so much better if you can taste. Because sometimes with dehydration, the taste buds get you lose the taste, which is horrible.
All
So
right,
yeah,
all right.
guilty pleasure, wine, a
Terrific. And
little
if
bit.
every so I know you have a French background, so do you only drink your favorites of French wine, or are you kind of someone who experiments with different wines?
No, my favorite are not French wine. It's all wines that are good to drink. Um, yeah.
All right. What's your favorite running gadget?
Oh wow. Um, oh, there's so many. Oh wow, my favorite one. Let's see. There. It might not be my favorite, but it's pretty nifty. It was a solar powered battery that you could charge everything with because let's say you're running with your Garmin in a desert run, you're out there for 7 days, there's no battery charger, you definitely don't want to carry a huge battery pack. So solar powered, it's amazing. Split up the wings, leave it out for a couple of hours, it charges a little bit and enough to charge your watch. Done.
Wow. Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Terrific. If not running, what else would you do you like as an activity?
Um, YouTube?
YouTube videos, editing.
Editing, yeah, absolutely. Editing is fun. Um, Editing is fun is and terribly hard. So I'm actually gonna put it at number three. I think I really enjoy going to the gym. I enjoy the feeling of being at the gym. I'm lucky enough that I work out in a large gym in Vietnam. There's here in Ho Chi Minh City. There's almost no confinement, so gyms are open, and I love the feeling. I love meeting friends at the gym. I don't enjoy the music they put there, but who cares? I have my own headphones. Um, it feels motivating to be around people who enjoy being physically active in general. It's motivating. And they have all the gadgets. They have all the foam rollers, Boza balls, TRXs, Vibras, and you name it. All the fun and trendy stuff that I love to play with. And they have a swimming pool inside the gym.
Wow.
So everything to make me happy. I'd say if not running, I'd be a gym rat.
All right. All right. Makes sense. All right. Makes sense. Any favorite book or a movie that's influenced your endurance life?
Absolutely. So for me, it was a documentary about Dean Karnazes that I mentioned earlier. And that documentary documents how he ran 50 kilometers in 50 states. So 50 marathons in 50 states in 50 days. And the doctors that followed him and were trying to understand why he didn't develop any muscle soreness. It turns out that apparently he's got a medical condition that makes him not feel fatigue. And so that's how he's able to run endlessly without feeling ever tired. It's a disease. Um, but that was eye opening. He did some really inspiring things in terms of charities and in terms of running. So incredible personality, things that make you want to become um, like someone. That's how he inspired me. And I discovered him when I was maybe I don't know in my mid 20s. So it's stuck with me for 20 years. I do want running to be something that's open to others, that's helpful to others, that's inspiring for others to get themselves better. This is
Yep.
better not
Yep.
just physically but mentally as well.
Yep. Yep. Makes sense. And Dean Karnaz is, because I think many consider him to be pioneer in ultra running, craze that's taken off in the US and across the world. I believe
Mm.
ultra running is what is, what was marathon many years ago, right? So,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
That's so true. Mm.
Terrific. Hey, Stefan, it was love this conversation. Want to kind of coming up to a wrap up at the moment. Anything you want to, any final wrap up comments before we call it close?
Um, Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I think to wrap it up, I strongly believe in running because it's one of those sports that you don't need anything to carry with you. You just need a pair of shoes, and you can run at your own pace. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. It's a very personal journey. So in that, I appreciate that you can build up to the level that you want to achieve at your own pace. And I think that's very important in life in general. I think it brought me a lot of life lessons. And I hope it can bring everybody some life lessons of perhaps persistence, courage, pacing, ego. It's also for some people meditative. It's a release. If you do some sprinting, then you can also let it all out. That feeling of achievement, if you're racing, it brings so much. I can make so many parallels between running and life that with other sports are not so clear. Running for me is really an obvious one. I recommend anybody to try and start on a journey of learning how to run.
Yep. Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, Stefan, thanks for again joining me on this conversation, and
Yeah,
have a
thank you so
wonderful,
much.
absolutely, have a wonderful day, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you. You too. Good night then.
Thank you. Bye bye.